Hello, you're listening to Storytelling Saga, the podcast that shares stories. I'm your host, Allie, and this week I'm discussing Zoey's Extraordinary Christmas, written by series creator Austin Winsberg and directed by Richard Shepard, who in fact directed the pilot of Zoey's Extraordinary Playlist. I'm so happy that this movie exists, that it was so wonderful, because, of course, unfortunately, this show was canceled by NBC, but then fans really rallied around it and did the hashtag Save Zoey's Playlist, which I participated in as well, and thankfully the Roku Channel picked up the series, the entire 2 seasons, 25 episodes, and then greenlit this movie. So, me personally, I would love to see more now. I would love to see either another movie or another season, preferably. That being said, if we don't get any more Zoey's Extraordinary Playlist shows or episodes rather, or another movie, I'm satisfied that we even got this movie to at least give some form of closure, because of course the season 2 finale ended with Max getting Zoey's power as well. So I'm glad we got to see a resolution with that. Similarly with Maggie, with her arc too, which you could tell in this movie that those two things specifically were condensed. I'm sure we would have seen more with an entire season, with Maggie trying to date, and with the dynamic of Max and Zoey both having the power, and how they both can read each other's minds, and how Max being super cocky with the power, whereas Zoey explaining to him, no, there's much more nuance to it, you have to understand that, and then when he realizes the whole thing with empathy. And we needed that so much. I loved that, not to jump already to that, but with that scene, I love that scene when they perform, when they both sing Time After Time. But specifically the fact that Max apologized to Zoey for how he treated her, and, like, you know, him realizing the weight she's carried, having this power of dealing with other people's grief and pain while she herself is still dealing with her own as well. And so we definitely needed that, of him to apologize to her, and that was the whole purpose that we learned with him having the power, that they both come to realize, Max, what if you had this power so that you can understand what I'm going through every single day? So him having that empathy for Zoey specifically. So I really liked that. I liked that scene a lot. I'm glad, like, at least we got a conclusion, like I said, with Max, with him having the power, and then it was gone. Evidently, though, some people wanted to still see him have the power. I think it's better that he doesn't have it anymore, and I like that it's left open, that Zoey still has it, and that if we do get something else Zoey's Extraordinary Playlist related down the line, be it another movie, preferably another season, but, you know, I've got my fingers crossed. I've seen the movie twice now. It made me cry a lot. It's so wonderful. I watched it exactly at midnight. I was like, immediately, I need to watch it. I'm so excited. I'm so eager to watch it. And I cried a lot, but I also laughed, of course. You know, everything you love from the show. You smile, you cry, you know, it just fills you with such joy. It truly is such a wonderful, special show, this series, because it's so personal, of course, to Austin Winsberg, who tragically lost his father to this disease. And I like the beginning of the movie how Zoey sums up the entire series, like kind of just the exposition for people who perhaps haven't seen the series before. But it's clever then, because then she's talking to Santa Claus. So it's just really great. Like, come on, poor Zoey. And then, of course, the big first opening number of It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year with Mo and all of the mall goers. And they said, as in the, like, Austin Winsberg and Mandy Moore and the, you know, people who work on the series said that this was a oneer, the biggest musical they did. So it was all one take, one shot rather, of this entire musical number. Similar to, I guess, the season 1 finale, American Pie, how that's a oneer, like just one ongoing shot. So that's really impressive, honestly. And they do such an amazing job. And, you know, actually what's funny is that I liked how, too, just on a random side note, but sort of similar, because this reminded me, how they dropped the trailer on November 1st, and then the movie debuted on December 1st now. But I liked how, like, oddly enough, I liked that there were different takes used compared to the trailer, because to me it felt like more exciting in a way. It's like, oh, this is a different take, because I noticed that with Mo saying, okay, Zo ho ho, like, it was a different take, if you notice, from the trailer compared to the actual movie, like the final cut of the movie. And I noticed that with a few other moments as well, so I just found that interesting. And I really did like the dynamic of Max having the power, and him being cocky, though, isn't a good look for him. It really isn't, especially knowing how much we see Zoey, like how much she goes through with the power of other people's pain, and like, you know, how with him it's all kind of surface level things, and him being like, oh, so this one's singing Cake by the Ocean and this person's singing Umbrella by Rihanna, so I told her to take an umbrella, like, you know, just like simple things like that. So but then when we see Zoey singing Bad Blood by Taylor Swift, and Jane Levy is so great. I'm glad we got to see her sing and dance more, because I know she's always said she's wanted to do that more, and that was the whole thing, how to incorporate her singing and dancing more throughout the show too, which we've seen here and there, of course, but especially with like the Glitch episode, one of the best episodes still of the series. Oh, also, as I was like in anticipation for this movie, I went back and rewatched all of season 2 on the Roku Channel, and I recommend, if you've seen this movie only once, go back and rewatch it, and same with season 2, because you pick up on small things that you may not have noticed the first time around. Even with this movie, small things I noticed here and there. Like, for instance, Tobin stealing the whole, like, plate of the peppermint bark. I didn't notice that the first time around. Gosh, I love Tobin. He's so funny. I would have liked to have seen... So, apologies that like, I jump around, but... Just to speak for a moment, if there's any criticism for me for this movie, it's simply that I would have liked to have seen more from each of the characters. And I understand, since this is a movie, everything was condensed in what would have been an entire season for if it had been picked up for a season 3. Which that's so unfortunate, because apparently they were all blindsided. They thought either NBC would have picked it up, or if not, then Peacock, you know, NBC's streaming service. But regardless, that's all a moot point now, because we got this lovely movie. But we definitely didn't get enough Simon, in my opinion, and I understand with his role in the movie, though, that it didn't really necessarily fit with the actual, each of the storylines, but I would have loved to see at some point meet his mother and his new stepfather. And similarly, like with Deb, even, we only learned that, you know, so her husband Arthur passed, and she mentioned a son, which I didn't even notice that the first time actually either. When I rewatched it, I noticed that line more, that stood out to me more. So I don't know, like, because she doesn't, you know, she was just with the Clarks on Christmas Eve. And so just things like that, just wanting to see more from the characters already, even with Max's family, still like the strained relationship with his father, things like that. Moe's parents, perhaps, Moe's mother. We didn't also see anything with Perry's ex-husband. It wasn't even mentioned at all. And I get, for the sake of just this movie and keeping it, okay, each storyline with Moe and his boyfriend Perry and his kids, you know, so that's just if I had one criticism, that I just would like to see more from the characters already, but again, I get it for the sake of the plot, that it's just sticking with, okay, Zoey wants to make the perfect Christmas with, you know, like recreating the memories of her father on Christmas Eve. And it's, of course, never the same when someone has passed, and it's like, as her father then says, and I love that scene too, because like, I like that it's in black and white. I'm sure obviously it's intentional to match with old-timey Christmas movies like It's a Wonderful Life, and then how it looks like they're in the snow globe. It's so sweet and just so beautiful. But when he sings Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, and he says how the only thing you did wrong was trying to make it perfect. There's no such thing. Even Simon says that to her as well. Like, there's no such thing as perfect. Just, you know, try to find some joy over the holidays. So I do like, though Simon's role isn't as big. I mean, he doesn't even get to sing a heart song. That's unfortunate, too, because he's so wonderful, John Clarence Stewart. He was so good in season 2. Rewatching season 2, his performance really stood out to me. Gosh, he's so talented. I think he should be a leading man in a show, a movie, whatever. He's so good. Like, I'd love to see him in more starring roles. But with him being a supportive person for Zoey, and how he's still a person that can support her in a way that Max can't, that with Zoey and Simon, they tried dating, it didn't work out, but now he still is this comfort to her, and that she went to him for advice because, you know, he unfortunately went through a similar thing with his father who passed. And so with her too, saying like, you know, what should I do? And he says either go all in remembering your father, or just go the opposite way, just like, you know. And that was what Maggie was going to do. And also her brother David and her sister-in-law Emily. They were so great in this movie, David and Emily. David, like, he's so funny. Andrew Leeds, he's great too, because I like all the kind of just the small, like, he's just really funny. Just like their whole storyline of wanting to one-up that Gluck guy, Adam Gluck. It's like, oh, for spite. Like, you know, just they're going to make that Christmas card to one-up Gluck. because they just can't stand him, like their nemesis from law school or whatever. And so then like they're posing for the fake ski trip for their Christmas card with little baby Miles, who is so adorable and is like a little more grown now in this movie. So his little hair, he's so cute, that little baby, oh my goodness. But I like how they, it's like they want to just like spite that one guy. And then of course Zoey is upset with that, saying, I don't think Dad would say that's in the Christmas spirit. And then after all of that, then when David writes the letter saying this is what we should send, and then Emily reads it saying, we were going to send you this Christmas card saying we had all this Christmas letter saying we had a great year, but actually it was a really tough year. My dad died. Emily suffered postpartum depression. And then, but here's the thing, we're still here. We can make each other laugh, and we have a great kid. And so that's really sweet. And then afterward, like, that's sweet they had that moment. And then it's like, oh, you still want to send it? Yeah, let's still send it. But it's too funny. And just like small moments of him, like with the presents, and then Emily saying, oh, that's nice, babe. You're excited to give Miles something? He's like, yeah, Miles. Like, he's excited for his own presents. And then, like, with the hat, too, that Zoey got him. I love that moment, too, when Zoey asks Mo what she should do. Like, she's super stressed wanting to plan everything for Christmas. And then with the gifts, Mo says, oh, that's easy. Just follow someone with cute shoes and get whatever she gets. I liked that part. Zoe's like shadow shopping the one woman. That was too funny. Like, just creepily, like the woman looking back. She takes a sweater that the woman looked at, and then like the hat that she got for David then. So it was too funny. But like just some lines with David, like him saying, we're gonna blow his glucking mind. Like, God, for that guy. And also, one line in particular from David that made me burst out laughing was when Zoey gives them all the socks. And she's like, oh, so for David, I gave you the, piano keys. And then he says, sometimes I like to go to town on the 88s. For whatever reason, just the delivery of that was hysterical to me. And so really the plot simply is just them wanting to do their own separate thing, but then Zoey wanting to keep the tradition alive. And like wanting to make the perfect Christmas, and then in doing so, of course, it doesn't, like, of course it's not going to be the same as it is, but then forcing all of it to be the same. And then like when Max brings that guy along, Jack from the lumberjack place, and he thinks he's helping out Maggie because he also heard Maggie sing the Heart song when Zoey saw her singing Call Me Maybe. That was a cool rendition of Call Me Maybe. That song was huge. That just takes me back to college in particular, that song, because gosh, that was like our anthem. My sorority and I, we loved that song. But anyway, like everyone in my sorority, that was just like our song for some reason. But and I liked seeing Maggie trying to move on, like trying to dip her toe back into the dating pool, as Zoey says, and Zoey helping her with the online dating profile. So you could tell that would have been like its own episode, and then like perhaps her going on different dates. But then in this movie, when we see her like, with Jack from the tree place, and he turns out to be a really genuinely nice guy. It's just that she's not ready to date yet, because then when Zoey catches them kissing, but he is just a really sweet guy. We see a moment of vulnerability with him as well when like Max gives him the socks that Zoey had gifted him, and then he gets emotional saying, oh, my dad had bought me this Lego set. I used to always play with it. So if this honestly were any other show, like something darker or whatever, I'm sure there would have been some kind of dark, terrible thing about Jack. But, I'm glad that he's just a nice guy. It's not the right time for Maggie to date right now. And he's just, I liked him though. He would have been sweet, but perhaps down the line first. He's just not ready yet, because then her storyline concludes with her going to the cemetery, and that whole scene, oh my god, I was crying throughout it. It was so emotional. Mary Steenburgen was fantastic in that scene in particular too. But like even when setting up the dating profile, and then when Zoey asks her like, oh, I know I'm ready or whatever it is, and I forget what the prompt was, but then when she says, when I stop thinking about your father every second of the day, like, oh, like I know I found the one when, or something like that. And then when she's talking to Mitch saying, honey, it's like I have to tell you something. I kissed a man, but that's not even the worst part. I tap danced for him. Like, oh, that's the worst part. That's too funny. And then she says, I hit the jackpot with you, and I think I just need to figure out how to stand on my own 2 feet, and then we can see about seeing other people. And then like she's like, I miss you, I love you, but you know all that already. Merry Christmas. It was so touching and so beautiful. Also, her with Deb, they were going to go on their Hawaiian getaway, but that scene was funny too, with Deb, played by Bernadette Peters, so good when she was singing the Maliki, I don't even know how to say that, whatever, the Hawaiian Christmas song, Maliki Liki Maka. Merry Christmas. And it's like, oh, like they're talking right in front of us, like when they're talking right in front of her, and she's like, I can hear you both, right? So poor Deb, but it was cute. And then like that was when Zoey starts getting upset when Deb puts the alcohol in the eggnog, like kind of switching up everything. And poor Zoey trying to make it all perfect, but then getting super stressed out in the kitchen. So even that too, like, get out of my kitchen. That was a different take. Also with Mo too, it's like, what are you doing? You're gonna rob a bank? That was like a different take too compared to the trailer. But poor Zoey. So the other moment that made me burst out laughing though was that moment with the ham, like carving the ham. She's like, I've watched so many videos on YouTube, I'm gonna do this right. And then cut to her bringing in this shredded up ham. And then David saying, oh, thanks, Zoey. It's been a while since I've had Big League Chew. Like, oh, God. And then poor Max, too. And he's like, oh, this is a great green bean casserole. And then Zoey's like, Jack brought that. He's like, oh, this is great, Jack. He's like, oh, thank you. And then, of course, the moment when, tragically, like, the moment when the beautiful snow globe breaks. And it's just so heartbreaking, like, when he accidentally breaks it, like, knocks it off the table, Jack. And that's when they sing Wish You Were Here. Oh, God, it's so heartbreaking, by Pink Floyd. And that moment, like, when it shatters and the look on Zoey's face, it's like her heart shattered. And it's just so tragic and devastating. So that scene was so beautiful and heartbreaking. And then, like, poor Max is so upset and he feels at fault that if I hadn't invited him, this wouldn't have happened. And, but to go back for a moment to also mention the Brogrammers, even though, there's girls in there as well now, but with Tobin and Leaf, etc., Mackenzie, with them talking about like their holiday plans. I love that whole scene though with the gingerbread houses. First of all, whoever made those, like the actual people who made those, amazing. Like the art department, I guess, of the series, like the crew, whoever made it. Oh my God, I wish, like, I love stuff like that, like small things but like intricate with all the details, beautiful. So I loved like their little competition at Spark Point, and I love all their sweaters. I did love the one scene with also Danny Michael Davis. He's hilarious too. Going back to rewatch season 2, God, he's like so funny, that character. He's great. I would have liked to have seen more of him too, but what we did get to see was great. The one scene of him in space, my God. And then like when they're singing Home Sweet Home by Motley Crue, that was such a great performance too. And again, God, they're so great, the Spark Point crew. And I love that Tobin and Mackenzie are still dating. That's just so cute. So then just like to finish out their arc by the end, when then poor Tobin, like when they went on the ski trip, and then poor Tobin is like all in casts, like, and then Leaf too. I love when he's like, oh, hey, it's the Clarkmans. Like definitely like a little wink to the audience because that's like their official ship name, Zoey and Max Clarkman. So that was cute too. So I would have liked to have seen more from Leaf and Tobin too. They're just so great. But them singing together, like kind of a little duet at one point during that performance, was so cool with Home Sweet Home. And then also, of course, we got the mashup in this with just the two of us, Max singing Just the Two of Us, and then Zoey singing We Need a Little Christmas. And that was so cool, the going back and forth. And again, Jane Levy was so great with that, with the choreography and with singing that. And then you got, of course, Skylar Astin, Just the Two of Us, like being all like kind of sexy, and then like her like being all like zany, like, no, we need a little Christmas right this very minute, like, oh. And then she's like, you're reading my mind, aren't you? He's like, you're reading mine, you definitely don't want to do something just the two of us, so, oh. And then when he says, then that's what we'll do, we'll have the most Mitch Christmas. So then like the dream sequence too is just so beautiful with her and her dad Mitch, played by Peter Gallagher, and like him singing, it was just so beautiful. And then of course how it looks like the snow globe when they both lift their hands, and like when it's snowing, and then looks like the snow globe of the little girl and the dad. It's so cute. So I loved that too. Oh my goodness. Then of course the scene with Zoey and Max when he says he feels responsible, he feels so guilty because look how he ruined Christmas. And then he's saying, I saw you guys sing a heart song, Zoe, there was so much pain and vulnerability. And then Zoe's explaining how the pain is always there, it's just but it's going to keep getting better and better year after year, and then when they sing Time After Time, it's beautiful, it really was. And that's then when he loses the power, and that was a really like emotional scene too, when he's saying, I can't hear you, and then she's just standing there and he's singing. And then he says, I think they're gone. And she says, it's okay. So that's just such a beautiful scene, though. And them being stronger, it made them stronger as a couple. And then, of course, also to mention, like, I just love that whole scene, but also to mention, I didn't even mention Moe's storyline, which I guess, to be honest, it was fine, but like him, like, it was funny, him inserting himself into the Christmas pageant. I loved him singing Underneath the Tree by Kelly Clarkson. I love that song, and it was just kind of like, really, Mo? Like, come on. Like, you should have known better of him just taking over the Christmas pageant. That woman, Susan, was so funny, the director lady, and like, he's like, okay, hold my purse. He just, takes over. It reminded me of something like kind of like Moira Rose from Schitt's Creek would do, and also definitely Cam from Modern Family, like, like, not only taking over, but like being the star of the Christmas pageant. Like, oh goodness. So then it's nice when Mo makes amends and like has Amira come on stage, Amira, Perry's daughter, and then they're singing What Christmas Means to Me by Stevie Wonder. So that's really cute. But come on, Mo. But Mo and Perry, their like dynamic was very cute, and then Mo does the Christmas karaoke. That's a really sweet thing. And then they all go to that, the Clarks, to celebrate, and it's just really sweet. And then when Simon hugs Zoey and hugs Max and brought them back presents, saying, well, we should start doing a sport together and I'm gonna crush you at it, like Simon and Max. So I love their friendship. And again, Simon and Zoey, when he gives her then the new snow globe, Vegas, and then that's really sweet. Again, like a nice symbol of now it's like new traditions. And he says, you could look at this and think, at least I'm not in Vegas. So, so it's so sweet. And then when they're singing and Max and Zoey are talking and Max saying, so why do you think you got the power? Zoe, it's like, we know why I had it, but what about you? And then she says, well, maybe the universe, she's saying maybe like people need you. And then she's saying maybe it was to help me reconnect with my dad, or maybe it was the universe telling me to look up, and they kiss, and it's just really sweet and just joyous and wonderful and so sweet. It's like, next time you could just ask me, like, if whatever's in my head, and I'll tell you. It's like, oh, like two normal communicative people in a healthy relationship. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's cute too. And then also the song over the credits, North Star by Tori Kelly, written by Mary Steenburgen, was absolutely beautiful. Such a beautiful song. So again, I just really love this show. It brings such joy. It's truly such a wonderful show. It was a beautiful movie. Props to everyone who worked on it. Props to Austin Winsberg, of course. Props to the cast, the crew. Like, I'm just, as a fan, I'm so in awe, because they had a really fast turnaround for this movie. Apparently they got it done basically within a month of everything, so that's wonderful in terms of like production of it, and it truly was beautifully done. And again, so much joy and heart to it that we love from the series. So I'm just so appreciative and grateful as a fan of this series. If we don't get any more, I'm satisfied with what we got, but I personally would love to see more, but we'll see. But until then, it's just so wonderful. And it's just truly such a beautiful show and a truly lovely movie. And with that is going to conclude this week's episode of Storytelling Saga. Be sure to visit storytellingsaga.com, and as always, feel free to send me any questions, comments, or writing prompts by sending me an email at storytellingsaga@gmail.com. Next episode, I will be closing out the year with a brand new short story I've written. Until then, thank you for listening, and remember, write what you love.